All right, welcome everybody. Episode 11, Heatwave podcast. I'm joined by one of my co-hosts. We're hoping to have our third co-host here fairly soon, but
Mm.
nonetheless, the show goes on. Ed, how are you doing this day?
Yeah, not doing too bad. Just mostly recovering from my birthday. My birthday was yesterday, so had a bit too much to drink, but it's fine. I'll be all right. I'm in top shape now. So yeah. How about you?
Awesome, awesome, man. Well, I mean, I'm probably feeling a little bit better than you right now, but yeah, I'm also doing well. I am uh, I am solo dad today, so if we have to cut this episode short, I apologize, but I might have to run out and take care of the baby. She's napping right now, but so we should be good. But nonetheless, let's get this thing started. I think the biggest news that we have is obviously coming off the back of the EU Super event this weekend. Um,
hmm
I don't know how much people are going to be surprised by this if you haven't heard the news already, but Ascend almost flawlessly dominated. I think they ended up dropping two maps to Navi in the
Yeah.
in the grand finals, but I think that was pretty much it.
hmm
So we had Ascend, obviously in your first place position, with Navi coming in as runner up. Then we had Quadrant and is it Jailings, the newly announced?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to nominate them for the worst org name in definitely in HCS. But I mean, congratulations to those guys. But yeah, so we have them in fourth. So coming out of the weekend, what's your biggest takeaway from the EU Super?
Um, Biggest takeaways probably. I think Navi looked really well improved since we last saw them like in a tournament. They look like they've definitely been putting in a lot of work. I mean, they had a new coach fairly recently, so I'm sure he's been working hard, getting them in top shape. So they definitely look like they've cemented themselves as a solid second now. Because for the past, we haven't really known whether they're like second, third. They were even fourth at one point. So it's good that they've finally kind of like found their place. And I think they'll be heading into KC in a couple of weeks with a good amount of confidence that they can actually do pretty well in the tournament.
Yeah, yeah, that was kind of the thing that I was leaving this weekend with. I thought even with I mean, second place is always amazing, but I'm sure for those guys, they probably at least part of them wanted first. But I think
Yeah.
even with second place and even with only taking the two maps off of Ascend, I would be proud of that performance. I think they looked very impressive. I think they looked like we've been saying that Ascend should be able to compete with these NA teams. I think we should be talking about how well Navi can compete with these NA teams as well
hmm
after that performance.
Yeah, for sure. I think like especially after the super, I think they'll be able to go toe to toe with definitely a good amount of the NA teams. I think it'll be interesting to see how they stack up against some NA teams who have made roster changes fairly recently, like Oxygen, and like, I think that would be a pretty cool matchup to see.
Yeah.
Just where they stack up against each other, to be honest.
Yeah. So I mean, we don't know how. I think group how the groups get split up, right? So at this point, we do
hmm
know everybody that's going to be in group play, but I think
Yeah,
they usually wait till the last minute to tell they do like they make a show of doing the groups, like actually organizing it. So
yeah, yeah.
so for right now, we're working with like limited like some limited knowledge on where how these groups will play out, because usually
hmm
there tends to be a group that's the group of death, as everybody likes to call it, and then there's usually like a kind of an easier group or whatever, more of a mid range. So we don't know any of that, but working without that, do you think it is there a world in which we see two EU teams in the top eight? What do you think?
Top eight.
Yeah,
I think I think
sorry, at Kansas
definitely.
City.
Yeah, yeah. I think definitely there's a chance. I don't know how big of a chance that is.
Yeah,
To me, it all depends on whether Navi play as well as we saw them last week. But I think Ascend should definitely be looking to break into that top eight.
yeah,
Just based on how dominant they've been. So I mean, I think there'll definitely be one EU team in the top eight. Whether there's two is a different story. It just depends like what kind of Navi we get on the day, I guess.
yeah. So we'll switch back over to Ascend. I mean, they are our champs. We they deserve to get talked about a bit. Do you think their stock kind of rose with this win, or was this just kind of um I don't know, just another day in the office?
Um, Personally, I'd say it definitely rose at least a little bit. I think, especially considering that Navi team does look like they've improved a lot. Ascend still, I kind of want to say comfortably dealt with them. I mean,
Yeah.
they lost first map of the finals, but after that, like it was kind of the Ascend show,
Mhm.
as it has been for the past little while. Um, I think as a team, their stock definitely rose a little bit, but Snipe Drone personally definitely showed out. He had the best KD of the whole tournament. He had a 1.4 overall, which is pretty crazy to be honest. So yeah, he definitely. I don't want to say carried because obviously the SN team are really good all round, but he definitely showed what he's got. Like he showed his value basically. So
Yeah.
I think the individuals definitely got a bit more hype around them, which is so great for their team heading into KC because they'll be on a high and they'll have more eyes on them. So personally, I think Ascender definitely wants to watch when it comes to KC. How do you feel though?
Yeah, I kind of think the same thing. It's so easy. It's just like when it's like very similar to when Cloud9 are winning now. You know, we tend to
Hmm.
overlook it. We
Yeah.
look for the other storylines, but I think they maintain their level, right?
Hmm.
They didn't blow away I think honestly, I think if they came in even and blew away the competition, we might
Yeah.
not even take that serious because we would just be like, we would
Hmm.
look at it the other side and be like, oh well, these EU teams aren't, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So I think they did as good as, I mean, you drop two maps, like you can't be any happier with that performance. But it's good to see them come into a more serious tournament than, you know, these online cups
Yeah.
as the favorite, and not let that get to them in terms of, you know,
Hmm.
getting a little overconfident or whatever. And especially um dealing with a what we all see as like a improved Navi. I think that's like very impressive by them.
Yeah. I think the only worry for me with the Ascend team is they haven't really been performing well. I haven't seen their performance on LAN yet, which is kind of scary for a team that's been so dominant online that you never know these days with like how they will handle when they're on LAN. So there's a chance there could be a slight chance that maybe the Ascend team take a little while to warm up
Yeah.
into LAN, which would be really interesting. But I think they'll be okay to be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, especially we know that Navi, on the other hand, have that a lot of LAN
Hmm.
experience, right? So we know
Yeah.
that they're not going to be that it's nothing new for them. So um, yeah, we'll see how they do. Now we're just pretty much counting down the days. I think we have just about a month until Kansas City, so it'll be exciting to see them get over here. Let's switch up and go over to our other two teams that qualified. So we have a couple things to talk about with these two teams. So the teams are Quadrant and Jailings, as we mentioned. So I'll start with
Mhm.
Quadrant. So I for me the big news, obviously coming into the tournament, was they had a last minute replacement player.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know anything about this new player and who they? I don't even know off the top of my head who they replaced.
Um, it was Shad. I think Shad. Re- did Shad go? I think Shad might have gone to. I think Shad might have filled in, and then their fourth became like the coach. Is
Oh yeah,
basically
you're
what happened.
correct. Yeah,
Um,
that's what it was. Yeah.
yeah. So they were definitely going into it a bit hesitant. I think, especially considering first round of winners, they lose 3-1 to a team that, in my opinion, they shouldn't have. It was a bit rocky off the
Yeah.
start at least. Um, but then they kind of ran through elimination bracket pretty easily. It was like three O's mostly. There was a couple 3-1s in there. Um, but then they ended up losing to Navi, which is fair enough. I think they at least took Navi to a game four, so that's something I think they should be happy about. But I think
Definitely.
they've kind of shown that they're definitely the third place in this
Yeah.
roster, not roster,
Yeah, I
format.
yeah, I agree with that. I think they're definitely the third place team. I think like obviously we had that 3-1 by Jailings. earlier in the tournament, and that kind of, for me, I was kind of like, okay, the lads are back.
Yeah.
And they continued to play good until they met up with them again. And that,
Hmm.
honestly, that quadrant versus Jailing's match was just, I mean, we'll get into the little bit of controversy as well, but just on their side, Jailing's, I think I wrote you about it. I was like, man, this is like, the way they're playing is just, oh, they
Yeah.
were making so many mistakes.
Hmm.
I saw them on recharge ball. I didn't see them play the ball like one time. And it was just, it looked like the quadrant show the entire time. So I mean, you could say that that was quadrant just, finally, therefore, finally getting into that chemistry with the new quote new addition. But it was all, I think
Hmm.
it was also Jailing's kind of showing that there may be a step behind in they got a couple holes in their game.
Yeah, I think they've got to be careful about that as well, especially because they're going to be going to KC where NA teams have, oh, I don't want to say perfected it because no one's perfect, but they will be levels above some of these EU teams. And I think the EU teams kind of know that right now. So they've got however long, like 4 weeks to really, really improve and definitely just kind of, I don't know. I think there's definitely a lot of holes in some of their performances recently. The J-Link squad, I mean.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they've got to be careful because any teams will take advantage of that. We've seen it in the past. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting just to see how EU teams stack up against NA teams.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I talked about it a little bit. Do you kind of want to lay the groundwork for what happened in that what was it, CTF on
Yeah, it was bizarre
summer?
ZTF.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like they had complete map control, and then like they were basically one of them pretty much pulled flag, and they had rocks, they had like pretty much whole map control, and then I think it was one of the observers lagged out the game.
Yeah.
Is that what happened? Yeah,
Hmm.
when the observer lags out the game, so the other observers decide to just end the game when it was like it could have been an easy. It was basically going to be a win, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, and then obviously it got posted on the timeline, and then everyone just started commenting. I think it went pretty viral in the community. So it was
Yeah.
just really unfortunate. I mean, I don't know what the rules are like around that, but yeah, it was a weird thing to happen, to be honest, because it was like it definitely was a mistake in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And we've had, at a couple we've had a couple moments like that on LAN as far as the observer lagging out, but we
Hmm.
haven't had it to where the observer lags out and then they decide to end the game because of that.
Yeah,
So
I
it
mean
was
they've got more
real
than one
bizarre.
observer, so
Yeah, and it was just
it's like
bizarre that that's where their mind went. Honestly, I mean, I know you can't, like, Halo's such a fast game, you don't have time to really talk about it. I'm
hmm
sure that observer just reacted, but
yeah,
it was, honestly, it's like, it's unacceptable. That game could have been the decider for which team gets to go, have a
hmm
all expenses trip paid to NA versus and
exactly.
into pool play versus, maybe making it over there in the open bracket. But yeah, I just think the reason I wanted to highlight it is because, I mean, it was, to me, it was like, it was a mistake that could have easily been avoided with a little bit more, I don't know, experience, I guess, or maybe communication between the teams beforehand. And by teams, I mean the, people running the event.
Hmm.
And then I felt like the response was a little bit fumbled as well, because I think Tashi came out and was just like, "Hey, that's unacceptable." I'm like, "Oh, I think this is past the point of unacceptable. I think that the team deserves something, right? Like
Yeah.
you guys pretty much, like, at the very least, that other team got a, an advantage, and that ended with them being able to get like more money by placing third place. I think
hmm
I'm like, there should
yeah.
be at least like some compensation in that, especially when it's like the mistakes on you guys, and the difference between third and fourth. I don't think it's like that grand of a number. I'm like, give that team a little something, like, for mistakes, and there needs to be something in place for that, because like, you guys are totally fine with a player messing up and you guys can fine them
hmm
$3,000
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for a bad tweet, but you guys cost the team, in a way, you cost the team their tournament run, and it's just like, oh, our bad, that's unacceptable. you know?
Yeah, I was expecting like an official statement to come out where like they actually addressed everything and they kind of came out and said they were handling like all the issues, but it was kind of just a few comments here and there from Tashi and like some other people who were like behind the tournament organizers, but it should not be happening, especially at this level with so much on the line.
Definitely not.
Um, yeah, I mean the difference between third and fourth was like I think it was about 5 grand. So it's still like a decent amount to miss out on. And the game was tied 2-2.
Yeah,
Was it in overtime? I think it
it
was, right?
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they had just, I think Jaylings was down too, so they were the ones that
Mm,
tied it up. And then
yeah.
I was really
Yeah.
confused on what happened because I actually I had to like get like I left the room and then I came back and the
Hmm.
match was still on and I was like, how is this? Based on when I left,
Yeah.
like this match had already been over. But yeah, it was a horrible situation. I mean, at the very least, I think they'll have this as a case study for the
Yeah, for
LAN, and so
sure.
it'll be like this exact instance. Don't do this.
Yeah. I mean, if that happened at KC, I don't know what would happen, to be honest.
Yeah.
Everyone would be in.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so moving over this weekend, we actually have the HCS Open Championships. So April 2nd and 3rd, the top two teams. So there's going to be a tournament in each region, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's the top 16 teams in each region. Um, will be the only ones that get to play. It's limited to 16, and then the two, first and second from this tournament will actually get their trip to Kansas City paid for. So the next land paid
Mhm.
for. So this was kind of interesting for a lot of reasons. One, it kind of deviated. Obviously, we've known about this for a bit now, but it kind of deviated from the original groundwork that was laid out
Yeah.
by 343. Do you have any thoughts on this, like this type of tournament? What do you think?
I think I like the actual idea, like the core idea behind the tournament of like the top two teams basically get free travel and expenses. I like that idea because it's kind of leverages it as a different sort of tournament. I like tournaments where there's like a unique um like reward on offer almost where it's like not always money. So
Yeah,
I think it's a cool concept, but it seems to me like it was almost just thrown together last minute almost.
yeah,
Um there was some changes to the format here and there. But yeah, I mean, I personally quite like the idea of the tournament. I just think it could have been done with more preparation, which seems like the topic of discussion pretty much every week for us.
yeah. So I like it as well. I think it's cool that HG, because I think that's kind of that's like a big part, especially with how expensive, especially right now, like plane tickets are like very expensive. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's cool that these teams are gonna get to play and compete for a chance to play and compete. Um,
Hmm.
I have like some gripes about it. I don't think you should venture off the roadmap for like why have a roadmap if you're just gonna throw a last minute
Yeah.
tournament together or maybe not last minute, but you know what I mean. Those are my issues, and then some of the other issues with it are kind of the idea that Oxygen, like a $25 million plus
Hmm.
backed organization, is going to compete for like a travel stipend versus like this pickup team. To me, that's like a little bit
Yeah.
ridiculous. I think maybe HCS should. I think you can do some things to like talk to like the orgs. Maybe not make it a hard rule, but
Hmm.
kind of dissuade them from doing that because like this. I think that's kind of taking advantage of the. That's my opinion. I think that's kind of taking advantage of like what this actually is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think maybe if they could have made it so maybe not like no orgs like no orgs competing in the in the tournament.
Yeah.
Maybe not that, but I think, to be honest, if it was 16 teams that aren't backed by organizations, it would almost be a good way for them to get their name out there.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
like I
do
expect Incognito to play in this
Yeah, and I
for
do
sure.
want to mention that we do have a tournament that is that. because
Yeah.
version 1 is putting on a tournament in collaboration with Xbox that will be basically, I don't think you could have an org.
Hmm.
Because you'll be representing version 1 at Kansas City. So we do have that event, and I agree with what you're saying. Like, the idea that all orgs are created equal isn't true. So
Hmm.
I don't think like, you know, these teams that have an org should be punished and not be able to play. I'm just saying, if your org is makes, or you know, worth X amount of dollars, maybe don't compete
Yeah.
for a travel stipend of $3,000. You know, maybe just
Hmm.
pay for your players to go. And like, if it's just the opportunity to compete or whatever, or if you guys win and then don't take it, you know, I think that would be a cool gesture. But
Yeah, like if you could compete and then like you kind of like if you say no, you don't want the money like goes down to the next people, like
yeah,
second and third it would be.
yeah,
Yeah,
and for all we
that's
know,
a good
that's what
idea.
they're gonna do. So, but I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think that's what they're gonna do. But that would be cool. Um, the only issue for me with this too is, so I do have an like a small issue with, I think I didn't see it happening, but when I first saw this tournament, I kind of thought this like really um gave people a reason to make team changes, because if
Hmm.
you're on the cusp of like being able to like compete in this tournament, because basically the way this tournament works is, you know, every team can sign up for it, and then based on your points,
Hmm.
they cut it off at like 16 teams. So
Yeah.
if you're like a savvy person, you can kind of try to figure out where your team's at and be like, okay, you know, if we dropped our player, because a lot of these teams haven't been playing together all year. So if you're like, hey, if we drop, you know, this player who's only has, you know, X amount of points versus this player, like, we can play in this tournament, you know?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate because it's like the HS points haven't really been in play too much for the whole year. Like
Yeah.
this is, I'd say, one of the first few instances we're actually seeing the points actually matter. And it's kind of annoying because I feel like there was not enough warning about this. Maybe if this was announced maybe a month earlier, they could have like teams could have made more preparations for this.
Yeah.
But it just seems like it's the perfect excuse to kind of shade one of your teammates and just cut him out of the team or something, which
Exactly.
is really unfortunate. It's just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah. And I should say, like, luckily I haven't seen anything like that happening.
Yeah, neither.
Yeah, and I think what helped them was maybe people not figuring that out, you know? Because people
Hmm.
signed, I think
Yeah.
once you sign up for the tournament, I don't think you can make like changes. So I think
Yeah,
people just
yeah.
went ahead and signed up, you know? But it is weird, yeah. But you know, teams like, I'll just use status quo as an example. I saw like Flamesword kind of texting or tweeting last weekend or the weekend before, not even understanding what this tournament was. Like at the last
Yeah,
minute
and
figuring out what, like, oh, it's only 16 team, you know? So
mhm.
just stuff like that.
It's
Like if it,
just
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's the same shit, different day. Like
Yeah.
it seems like we're always talking about situations like this,
Yeah.
and
We're
I don't
like,
know. It's just I'm
break,
just getting sick of it now.
yeah, breaking news. There was little to no communication on this.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
I could have seen this coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
It's just stupid in general.
Mm-hmm. And then, so my other issue, and this is kind of like a half baked idea, but you know, we were talking about the slots that these teams are going to get to play for in
Hmm.
the other so focusing on the other regions. I don't know if we need, I mean, I guess it is cool. I guess they're not taking anything away from any team, but I'm like, do we really need to see the third best team in like A and Z get a free like pass to come to, or you know what I mean, get a stipend to come?
Hmm.
I just feel like, I guess that's a different issue because it's more like how you're spending like budget. But for me, I'm just
Yeah.
like, I mean, you gave, you know, the opportunities that you had were really good, but I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're just doing it to get more eyes on the different regions, I guess,
Yeah,
because you never know what's gonna happen. Like an ANZ team could come in here and like absolutely crush it, or like one of the
yeah,
MX teams could go to KC and just make a big upset. Which personally I'd love to see because you know me, I love the upsets.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, that's pretty much it for that. And I think we kind of just have some more miscellaneous stuff, and then, sorry, I think I always say it wrong. Is it miscellaneous, whatever. Um,
Either or.
yeah. So Um, yeah, so we'll kind of get into this stuff. So first of all, I'm really confused on this. So going over to roster moves, I saw Fnatic playing with Jazero at
Hmm.
the ESA tournament on Monday, but I haven't seen anybody talking about it. If this was just because I've seen teams in the past that when they split, it's not necessarily bad feelings, and
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
stand in, and just especially an ESA tournament, very cool tournaments, but they're not necessarily linked to HCS, so there's
Hmm.
no like conflict or anything like that. But is there any chance that Jazero's back on this Fnatic roster?
I think it's interesting because you never really know with stuff like this. I think for me personally, if I had to guess, I'd say it's more of a case of no bad blood between the members, and they just kind of needed someone who they were like comfortable around and they knew how to play with.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think I've ever really seen a case like this in the past, like a year or two, where they drop a player and then he comes back. So it'd definitely be interesting if it happened. But
Yeah.
I think they're probably heading towards the route with Ali.
Yeah, and for all we know, Ollie just couldn't play, and like we said, they
Hmm.
called up Jazeera and they're like, "Hey, let come make this money.
Yeah,
We're gonna run
exactly.
this tournament. You know how we play. We know how you play." I just thought that was interesting, and I kind of like maybe I just missed it, but I kind of found it interesting that nobody was like commenting on it, and I was
Yeah,
like,
I might have to make a tweet about that.
"Yeah, is Jazeera back?" And then honestly, I was getting in my own head about it. I was like, "Am I watching a live tournament? Is this a replay? Am I watching like a 3 week old tournament?" But um, I guess either way, we'll have to see how it pans out.
Hmm. I think
Unfortunately,
surely roster changes have to be announced fairly soon in the next week or two, right?
yeah, we could probably look up the roster lock.
Hmm.
And we won't get to see. That's one thing that the tournament did do right. Not like the only thing, but we won't get to see Fnatic play this weekend in the Open Championship because partner teams
Hmm.
aren't allowed to play in it.
Yeah, I
So
think that's definitely a good step in the right direction.
yeah, me
But
too. Yeah,
it's still not. I don't know.
yeah,
Three four
it's
three
not
are
enough.
just weird now.
Well, like I used what did I say? Oxygen, dude.
Hmm. Yeah.
Complexity are gonna
Mm,
play for a
yeah.
$3,000 travel stipend. You guys better
Yeah.
donate that to charity. Ridiculous, man. Um.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get over to some kind of like wacky happenings. I
Mm.
want to talk about this Nebula situation with Blackhand. So let's start at like a little bit of the beginning. So Nebula was originally playing for BBG.
VG. Yeah.
Yeah, he gets transferred over. Apparently, Blackhand and BBG came to an agreement on, I don't know, transfer fees or whatever. But they come to an agreement. Nebula transfers to Blackhand. Fine.
Hmm.
So then he ends up playing with Blackhand. They don't have the best performances, but I mean they weren't having the best performances before. So for me, it was kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is what was gonna happen.
Yeah. I think we commented on it when the roster move kind of happened. It was a bit of a strange one for us because
Yeah.
we didn't see too much logic behind it. But
hmm
yeah, I mean,
Well, at the time
it kind of just
too,
blew up.
at the time when it happened, BBG their biggest failing was
Mm. They
was
didn't
not being able
qualify
to.
for Anaheim.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and up until that point, you could say they were the ninth best team in Halo as far as like open
Yeah.
tournaments were going. They were good. And
Hmm.
there were. I think there was. I might be wrong on this, but I think there was weeks that they were qualifying into like they were placing top 8
Yeah.
in the pro series.
Yeah.
You know.
Definitely more than once, I think.
Yeah. So it looked like a good team. I think a roster change wasn't like the craziest idea. The weird thing
Yeah.
about it was obviously that unless I don't know what the incentives were for Nebula to move to Blackhand, because
Mm.
another thing was it kind of seemed like that he wanted that. That's at least what um
Yeah.
has been kind of implied and kind of I think even said by some people. But anyways, so they don't have the best results. And then one of the open tournaments, Nebula's not playing with them. And we didn't even bring it up because honestly, like they had been failing to make it into the top 16 anyways. So
Yeah.
it was kind of, kind of no issue. I don't know if you had any news behind the scenes before that.
No, I had no clue really. I just kind of I saw Nebula tweeted.
Yeah.
He said,
I'll, I'll get into that
"Do you
right
want
now.
me to read it out or?"
You go ahead. Yeah, you can read it. So I'll just like lay the groundwork a little bit. So
Mhm.
Nebula doesn't play in that tournament, and then pretty much the next week Nebula tweets out, and you can go ahead and read his tweet.
Yeah, he says, "To the person in the Halo community that tried to sabotage my career by sending org screenshots of people calling me racist on Twitter, congratulations, you've got what you wanted. All that I ask is for you to come and talk to me if it affects you that much, because I am sorry." And then basically from that, the
Um,
org owner of
yeah,
Blvkhvnd.
wait. Pause right there. So when you read that,
Hmm,
did you at all understand any of that? Like, I thought that was the most
no.
confusing tweet ever to come out.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
I hadn't seen any comments on Nebula, any allegations or any of that really. So to be honest, I wasn't really sure why he brought it up in the first place, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it kind of he just throws together a bunch of different sentences, is what it looks like.
Yeah, so my first thinking was, okay, it kind this is why I kind of hate like Twitter, because I think
Hmm.
simple messages can get easy, especially if people aren't paying attention to how they're writing things, like they're actually easy to like misunderstand. But for me, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so it sounds like I feel like I have a good idea that somebody is sending orgs. Um he didn't even say instances of me being racist. He said people
No.
calling me racist.
Yeah. So it's not even like solid proof or evidence,
No, and he's
which
not even
is.
saying that I ever did anything. He's saying that people just said I did things, like I said
Hmm.
I was being racist or something like that. And then
Yeah.
it ends with like, I just want to know who you are so I can say sorry.
Hmm.
I'm
As
like,
if
oh,
he's guilty.
yeah. So it's either like, or it's
It's.
like a sarcastic, like, oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and he hasn't come out and commented on that. But anyways, we'll leave that where it's at. So then I feel like completely unprompted, the Black Hand,
Yeah.
I think probably like CEO,
Hmm.
I don't even know how to say his like handle, but Hand SU is his like
Hmm.
little name on Twitter. He comes out, and you want to read his response to
Yeah, I
Nebula?
mean, yeah, I'll go for it. He says, not sure where this is coming from, but you sabotage your own career by not showing up to team practices, making countless excuses why you didn't show up, poor performance in open series consistently, and false allegations of tweeting toward other players." And then there is a little bit later, but we'll get into that in a minute. We'll focus on this bit first.
Yeah. So okay, man, I have a bunch of different, like, again, just so many different questions, so many different thoughts. So first of all, the way Nebula's tweet like, I'll say this. Nebula, if Nebula did what he's accused of, as far as what this guy is saying, as far as what the owner's
Mhm.
saying, as far as like not showing up to practice, not, or I think he said it in this, oh, poor performance and
Yeah.
allegations of cheating towards other play. Okay, if he's I understand why the owner is upset. I'll say that. Like, I
Mm.
get I get that the owner's upset about that stuff. That being said, what Nebula tweeted out was not even concerning any of that stuff. And
Yeah.
it also didn't even have anything to do with Black Hand, in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah, it was more like seemed more personal than any shot at an org, to be honest.
Yeah, and it didn't seem like he was talking about like them sending it to other organizations or something like
Hmm.
that, not
Yeah.
like necessarily his own organization. So it was just very, for one thing, like, I don't think as the CEO or whatever, I don't think you should like, I think this is not taking like the high road, I think it's kind
Mm.
of
Yeah.
punching down a little bit. You're supposed to be a little bit more professional, like, it's one thing for a player to come out and not sound professional and not put on like a good, face in front of the public, but if you want to run a good business, in my opinion, like, you need to come off a little bit more professional than he does. He's kind of just taking shots at somebody, and it's like, oh, it's funny, it's good entertainment, but it's not really what you want to see from like a CEO of any company.
Yeah, it just seemed a little unprovoked in my opinion.
Yeah, unprovoked is definitely a good word for it.
As if yeah, as if he was kind of just using this Nebula tweet to rant about what went wrong with the roster move because clearly something has gone wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
either Nebula wasn't happy at the org or he
Hmm.
fell out with his teammates. I'm not too sure what happened there, but yeah, I mean, he was making excuses of why he wasn't showing up, and he was not showing up to practice. So all of that kind of resulted in the poor performances, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then
And
yeah,
and I
it was
like
just
I
a
take
weird
it, yeah,
situation.
and I don't like that one either. So didn't show up, fine. Like he doesn't show up, and then he says poor performance in the open consistently. So
Mm,
is that, are you calling like Nebula? I don't think that's like fair unless it like if his teammates kind of said something, like I'll take that into
yeah,
account.
yeah,
But I'm like, you can't bring somebody into a team that's underperforming and then they perform on that level and then you'd be like, hey, you're not you're not pulling your weight or something. Like, what proof do you have? Your team hasn't been doing well ever, you know?
mm, yeah.
All right, but
So then
okay, yeah,
he
let's go to the
follows
next
up.
tweet. Yeah.
Yeah, he throws more dirt on Nebula. He basically quotes his own tweet and then he carries on saying, the fact we as an org didn't actually drop you and you texted me about leaving paints a different picture than what you're saying here. You begged us to pick you up. I worked my best to negotiate with BBG to work out a fair deal, and you spat on it and us in the process. The fact that some other person outed you as a racist is only the cherry on top of your lack of professionalism in this environment. We really tried our best to make the hand the best place for you, and you didn't give us a chance. At least now you're free to find an org.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, no pulled punches here. He
No.
kind of just let everything fly.
He's going for the jugular. He really
Mm,
is. All right, so let's start at the top. So about so he texted him about leaving. So obviously this person isn't happy that, you know, and I'm not saying he should be, but he's not happy about the how he informed the org that he was like leaving the org. And he
yeah,
makes it sound like Nebula begged to get picked up, which it happens, you know, he wanted off of BBG. I'm sure he was under some sort of contract. I think BBG even
yeah.
said that he was.
Hmm.
Um so I I mean I don't know. So they had to pick worked my best to negotiate. So and then he's like and he spat on it. Yeah, again, this just like brings home what you were saying, that he was just looking for like a little in to
Mm,
kind of
yeah,
get all this off his chest.
yeah,
And unfortunately, Nebula had to tweet out that day.
yeah. I mean, if he hadn't tweeted out, I doubt any of this stuff would have come out.
No.
But yeah, it's just unfortunate on his end. I mean, he tweeted something just trying to clear himself, and then he kind of got bombarded with
Yeah.
this. But I mean, he basically mentions he's got a lack of professionalism, which I
Yeah.
can understand the frustrations from the org owner because I believe this is the owner of Blackhand.
Yeah.
So clearly he's frustrated. I mean, yeah, it's not the best to have a player under you working kind of in that way. Um,
No, it
but
makes,
yeah,
yeah. No, the frustration makes total sense. And if what he's saying
hmm
is even like a little bit true regarding the other issues, you know, which
yeah,
it wouldn't be too hard to prove because I mean, you could just ask the teammates. I don't know what
yeah,
incentive they
yeah,
would have to lie about this. And honestly, even Nebula's not even saying rebutting any of this, you know.
yeah,
But then I do like, I shouldn't say like, it is interesting the fact that he then his follow up was the fact that some other person outed you as racist. I mean, the
mm,
other like, first of all, nobody said anything about getting outed as a racist.
yeah,
And then he's like, is the cherry on top of your lack of profession? So he's almost like reveling in the fact that he's getting these racist allegations like levied against him, which is just, I mean, dude, he must
yeah.
have, you know, a lot of animosity over
hmm
this failed deal.
Yeah, Nebula's down bad, but
Yeah.
do you think these tweets about Nebula, do you think that's going to make it more difficult for Nebula to find an org now that obviously he's, well, judging from
Well,
this, he's a free agent?
so I'd say if Halo was in a better spot, no,
Mm, yeah,
but I'd say it's already kind of hard to find an org, and
yeah,
also I don't know. He didn't make the best showing of himself with like any of the recent moves, and also he hasn't come out and like I'm not. I don't know. You don't. You should. I don't want to make anybody. It seem like you always have to come out and defend yourself, but like,
Hmm.
dude, if there's like people calling you racist online, like, you should come out and say
Yeah.
something. For your own, for just PR sake,
Hmm.
man. Like that's not. That's definitely not what you want, and especially if that's not who you are. Like I wouldn't want those things being said about me, and like maybe
Hmm.
maybe he's just the type that's like, you know what, that's none of it's true, like I don't need to talk about it. But I really would be surprised if we saw him on a team anytime soon.
Yeah, I think. I mean, if any of the allegations are true, then it's obviously Nebula's in the wrong. But
Yeah.
it's just it's a sticky situation that he's got himself into, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he did have some trouble trying to find an org. I think
Yeah.
maybe some. I mean, he's got pro points, so
Mm-hmm.
he could be competing in this Open Championship tomorrow.
Yeah.
I
I
imagine anyway. But
Yeah, I did look at some of the orgs. I mean, we only have, so for the NA one, I think when last time I looked, we had close to 40 teams. And
right, yeah.
I didn't click through every roster. A
Hmm.
lot of them are familiar rosters, but I didn't see his name come up. I mean, I hope it gets cleared, or at least if the allegations are false, it kind of,
Yeah.
gets forgotten about. And also, I did reach out to Nebula and ask him if he wanted to come on the show. So if he ends up watching this, or if anybody ends up, that's friends with him, like let him know he has a platform to come on and talk about it. And we're not going to be judge and jury. We'll just kind of like let him get
Yeah.
his point of view out there.
Exactly. Same with anyone from Blackhand. If they want to come on here
Yeah,
and just speak on the situation, maybe get some more clarity, because
it's
sometimes when
yeah,
it's
it's
written down, it's
confusing,
not the
man.
easiest to understand.
Yeah, it's confusing and it's unfortunate, and I think like people kind of shy away from like when stuff like this happens. Like people, like
Hmm.
first of all, there's a group of people that just dogpile onto it, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. But then I think people get scared. But it's like, dude, I think just coming out and being, especially if you, I mean, honestly, even if you did do something, like come out and try to make amends. Whether people
Yeah,
accept
for
that
sure.
is its own thing. But um, just try to come out and say your piece. It's especially with these like online forums, man. It's just so hard to really get your point across, and people don't really see like the person behind those tweets sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's just a weird situation in general.
definitely. Okay, so we'll move on to viewer questions.
Hmm.
Get those lined up.
Yeah, I mean, I can do them. Our first one comes from Mr. Pink. He asks, "What do you call your fans?"
Man,
I don't really know, to be honest. I
so
think.
Heatwave, right? That's the
Mhm.
so we got it's the trend is like you name it something based on your like the name of the episode or the show.
Yeah, I don't know about like individual fans, but I think we could always the wave, as in like as a community, could
Done.
be the wave. I think,
Done. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
I
a
think that sounds pretty nice.
yeah. Good question, Mr. Pink. I mean, I think we nailed it though. The wave.
I hope so. Anyway,
Yeah, what was the other question?
hey, Shane Tinseth wants to know who would win in a 1v1 tourney between us three, well,
Okay.
including Posey.
So I'll say
I
this.
think
Oh, go for it.
no, you go for it. You go for it.
So I would guess Posey would win. I think he plays the most.
Yeah, I think I'd get absolutely destroyed by Posey.
Okay. And
Probably anyway.
I think you would actually get second, cuz I don't,
Really?
yeah, I do not get to play at all. And honestly, when I jump on now, it's embarrassing, but I have to play like social cuz I can't even
Mm.
like my BR is just like so garbage. Yeah, so maybe if I got some, maybe it'd be a little bit closer, but I still don't think we would touch Posey. I think he
No, I don't. I think we'd have to 2v1 him, to be honest,
yeah,
and
I think
then
so.
we still probably might not win that. It would be close. So
Yeah. Was that it for viewer questions?
yeah, that was it. Thank you
Okay.
to everyone who sent them in. By the way, make sure to keep sending them in. We're gonna keep answering them. We like hearing from people. We like talking about ourselves.
Yes.
Um. So
Um,
yeah.
okay, so one other thing I wanted to touch on was so we had a question last week that was the partner team application
Hmm.
information, and then I ended up looking up. I might have to find it, but I ended up looking up. Can you pull that up, or is it possible?
I mean, I'll look. Uh,
I guess we don't have to get
uh,
too much. We could like,
oh, I found it. I
oh,
found it.
okay, we could queue that up for another episode too. But they actually had a lot of information that I didn't know. So
Hmm.
basically, what I kind of got lost in my train of thought, but we had a question last week about the team applications, and I think I forgot the question, but it was kind of like what qualifications do you have to have as an
Yeah.
organization, was
Yeah.
it was along those lines. So I like did a little bit of digging, and they actually completely like spell it. So basically, each partner team that applies has to create a presentation, and I think the presentation might be able to be in like video format. And
Hmm.
basically, in the document that Ed pulled up, it has a bunch of questions that you have to answer, and I thought like a lot of them were like, it was really insightful. But one of the things I did learn too is that it's actually open until the like 4th of next month, right, or something like
I
that.
think. Yeah. Let me have a look.
It's one,
Uh,
yeah, it's really early in May, or
yeah, the
sorry,
fourth
April.
fourth of April.
Okay,
Yeah, 4th of April.
yeah, so we still
So
have like,
just under a week.
so we still have about 5 more days, but it did seem, it was like, did you want to like touch on some of the questions that they ask?
Yeah, I mean, I'll run through.
Yeah.
Basically, they break it down. So there's different sections that you have to answer. So you've got to answer an introduction phase where it talks about when you were founded, what are the games you participate in, your management, who are the founders, and stuff like that. So just to get an idea for which orgs are participating. Um, and then there's a Halo experience and goals, which asks like why Halo, what's your team's history with Halo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, what's the overall estimated size of investment in Halo for a year? Which, I mean, clearly the bigger teams are going to be spending millions in that range, I imagine.
Yeah.
Um, then player management, it asks what perks and incentives do Halo players receive? Are your players considered contractors or employees? Just the usual stuff, really.
Yeah. I thought that one, so there's a couple um questions that like stuck out to me. So one, I
Hmm.
thought that was interesting because it, and then I think it goes on to ask if you provide benefits for
Yeah.
your the team members or whatever. I thought that was kind of
Hmm.
cool. I don't know how they factor that in, like whether that's, I'm assuming that's better than it not, not having benefits for the players.
Yeah.
But I did like that. Um the other just general thing that stood out to me was like the bigger teams, that have these like giant staffs, like they have
Hmm.
marketing people, they have like
Yeah.
communication experts that like, dude, they probably already had this like lined up, they've probably done this like
For sure.
a bunch of times. Whereas like these smaller orgs, I could see them like kind of going through this and being like, okay, we're gonna have to put together, like, it's a daunting
Mm.
task.
Yeah. Terrifying.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was like super interesting. It is kind of cool though, because it really, if you like, if you're a low budget team or whatever, you're a newer org, if you really
Hmm.
just put your work into that, I mean, obviously, like some of the aspects aren't going to be as good as like the bigger orgs, but you can put together a
Hmm.
really compelling like presentation. It kind of does
Yeah, I think.
even the playing field.
Yeah, I think you don't even have to be like a completely large like Cloud9 optic scale org. I don't think you have to be that because it asks in like the sponsorship and partnership section. It asks what sponsors you plan to work with at the end of 2022 and 2023,
Yeah,
and it says like if unknown, which categories are you targeting? So that kind of suggests there might be some orgs who maybe they don't have the biggest sponsors just yet, but they could use this partnership scheme to kind of, I guess, increase that level of sponsorship and awareness. But yeah, I think well, only the maximum three teams are going to be partnered, so I doubt we'll see any kind of smaller organizations be included in this. I imagine we've talked about it many times before. It'll be like Ascend, KC Pioneers, people like that. So um, definitely, I think it's just interesting to know kind of what they're looking for in the future. And I think probably after this year, after this season's gone by, I imagine they're looking at opening it again for probably more than 3 people at a time, more than 3 orgs.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see. I don't know how quickly. I'm assuming if the registration or application windows open until the 4th. Oh, I think they actually said it, didn't they? It says in there too that I think June, am I right? Was like when they would announce. I might just be making that
Let me
up.
have a look. Let me have a look. June. It says in June the teams are selected.
Okay.
So I don't know when the
So
announcement will be.
yeah. Yeah, so at least so no time soon at least. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I'm sure they'll probably do like they'll probably need some time um because I think they'll put together packages, and then if they're selecting in June, then they might still need to work on the in-game skins
Yeah.
and things
Also,
like that.
what I was thinking is, if they select them in June, is there a chance they don't announce until the end of year one, or do you reckon this will be like a mid-year type announcement?
I would be really surprised if they didn't announce it. I don't know. I could
Mm.
see a couple. I could see a couple things. Like I could see them doing the announcement before the World Championship. You know?
Yeah, to boost crowdfunding and stuff.
Yeah. Or I
Yeah.
could see them doing it like during, because they like to announce
Mm-hmm.
things during the World Championship. So I could see
Yeah.
that. So I guess it just depends. And the World Championship, so if they're picking teams in June, the World Championship is in October, so that's 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I guess it just really I can see both ways, I guess. I guess it just really depends on what their goal is. But
Yeah.
I'd also, if I was one of those teams, I would be wanting to get involved as soon as possible, I would imagine.
For sure. I mean, if you apply now and you don't get in, I wouldn't say that would put any organizations off. I think you should just keep trying, because a cut of the skin money is going to go to you. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah, I would just keep at it.
mm,
Okay, so I think that pretty much covers it. We're not. Oh, I did want to touch on um the Shopify Rebellion actually got a new
mm,
coach. So they
yeah.
brought back one of the OGs, Bestman, as their coach.
Mm,
I thought it was kind of cool. It's nice. Like I think the nicest part about it for me is just seeing that this team still, or that Shopify Rebellion, despite the like lack of results, like the organization is still trying. Like they're still
mm-hmm, yeah.
putting something into this at least to be able to get Best Man on board. Um, I did reach out to Fallout because I was like, oh, that's weird. I wonder if like what happened
Mm,
there. And he just let me know that it was actually he was like nice enough to respond, and he let me know that it was due to just time constraints because Fallout's also a
mm,
I don't know if he'll end up casting Halo now that he's not coaching, but I know he's casted it in the past, and he actually does at least Apex on a regular basis, and I think he's doing that
mm-hmm,
right now. But yeah, he said just
yeah.
due to time, he wasn't able to continue with the team, and he still like wishes nothing but the best for them. And he said he had a blast doing it, and I'm hoping that we can get him on the show eventually to talk about his experience.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good move for Shopify Rebellion, because these guys they haven't been looking lackluster. They've been performing well, and obviously all 4 of these guys are fairly new to Halo. So
Yeah,
I think this roster move, well, adding a new coach, hopefully will make them spark a little bit more, and we might see, obviously, different opinions, a different opinion. He's going to bring
yeah,
something new to the team, so
yeah.
hopefully this team can push. So,
I think honestly, I think they're kind of at the point where they probably should think about a roster change or two. But
mm,
I do like them as a team. I think they're like all hard workers. You can tell from their like
yeah.
past results in other games and just how quickly they've like um adapted to Halo.
Hmm.
And they make it hard to like root against them, man. It seems like four like really likable guys. And I hope they do well. They're signed up for this next tournament, so I hope they do well in it. Um,
Hmm.
that kind of so and it's cool to see like somebody like Bestman who had like a really great career in Halo. I think primarily like Halo 3. It's cool to see like some old names they've got like he's now the coach of Shopify Rebellion, and then there's Elamite coaching Space Station. We also have
Hmm.
Neighbor coaching Built by Gamers. So it's cool to see these like older Halo pros kind of back in the scene.
Yeah, can't forget about Lunchbox either.
Yeah, yeah, and Lunchbox too. Um, no, it's awesome. Okay, so I did want to touch. Have you looked at the teams that are signed up for this?
No, I actually haven't. I'll have a look quickly.
All right, I want you to pull that up real quick because I do want to do. I think it would be cool to do like a prediction for this one, at least on the
Yeah, for
NA,
sure.
at least on the NA side, and then I kind of want to do like a dark horse, maybe either for this tournament or on LAN, because I have a team that probably will surprise you. Who I think is actually has the chance to perform pretty well.
Okay, yeah, I got them up now. Just taking a quick look.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so look, so we've got it still hasn't changed, so there's about 20 hours left to sign
Mhm.
up for this, and I don't know if teams are waiting until the last minute. I think we will probably at most we'll probably have a few more teams. Maybe it'll
Yeah,
get
probably
close
about.
to 50 or so.
Yeah, yeah, probably something like that.
Because I know some teams like to just wait till the last minute, maybe not release their rosters yet. Okay, is there any teams that are looking over this? Like, who are you favoring in this tournament?
Um, I mean that complexity roster can't go unnoticed. They've
Yeah,
been ever since they added Monster to the roster. It's been pretty much. I don't want to say easy for them because it's not been, but they've definitely looked like a new level of play. So probably probably that complexity roster. I mean, it'll be interesting to see whether Oxygen have improved since last time we saw them because they didn't have the best time in the open.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, probably I want to put my money on complexity.
yeah. I think complexity's got to be my number one choice. And then I'm
Mm.
kind of the same way on. I kind of feel like the other team is probably going to be a team that we're not expecting. In this, that's usually how
Yeah,
things pan
yeah,
out. It's usually not the 1 and 2 seeds that make it. But for all we know, they could. I think if Oxygen are playing their best, I think they're easy number two. But it's just
yeah,
we haven't really seen them be able to maintain that form.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so do you have any? So switching over, like, kind of use this as like a question for this tournament, but also on LAN.
Hmm.
Who's do you have any like dark horse teams, like, and not necessarily to win the tournament, but to make a surprising like run, maybe through the open or maybe even place in like the top 16?
Um, I'd say probably the incognito roster mostly, just because they don't have an org. So I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are sleeping on them. But yeah, I mean, either them or I know Snaked and Heated have been pretty. They're pretty good in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're known to make a run, kind of. Uh, they kind of just make a run when nobody expects it. So
Yeah.
probably one of those two. How about you? How do you feel?
No, you took the words out of my mouth. I was picking so I like that. I really like that incognito pick, and
Hmm.
they've been doing some like interesting things, man. They've been getting some like
Yeah.
upsets that you wouldn't expect. So it'll
Hmm.
only be I think I think they can only go up at LAN, you
Yeah.
know.
Definitely.
So it'll be cool. We've been talking about Carmea for a while, so it'll be nice to see him perform. Hopefully we'll see them perform under that version one, in those
Version
version
one.
one
Yeah.
jerseys. Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Um,
I think that's probably the most likely team to win that
yeah,
version one
I
tournament
agree. Yeah, I think they should go into that tournament
with
expecting to win.
confidence for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
definitely.
1000%.
And then honestly, you took the other team like Snaked and Heated, man. I've really liked what I've seen from them online.
Hmm.
I think they're kind of like a sneaky team that could have some good results as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that's it. That's it for this week. Did you have anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No, no. I feel like how long have we been going? Just probably about an hour now, right?
Let me see if I can even tell. Oh, I don't even know how to tell. Probably yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, like just about to hit an hour.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
So
perfect time.
thank you everyone for watching. We'll be here next week after this championship, and we'll see how our picks went, whether we were right, wrong. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for tuning in. Leave your comments below. Leave your questions. We'll speak to you next week, and make sure to get down below, subscribe, keep all the motivation going, because every new subscriber we just want to push for, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Just like Ed said, thank you guys everybody for showing up. We're about a month out from Kansas City, so Halo's starting to get back to an exciting place. The other thing I wanted to say is we are super interested in doing like more interviews. So if anybody's watching this in the scene that would like to come on or just come on to give your opinion, let us know. We'd be happy to have you.
Sure.
All right, thanks everybody. See you next week.